She slammed her car door so hard the windows shook and shouted, "You again! I told you this street is not for people like you." Before I could even answer, she pulled out her phone and yelled, "911, HOA emergency. He's trespassing." Neighbors peeked through curtains as she pointed at my house, like she owned the ground under it. I stayed still, hands open, calm, because last time she tried this, it sent her to prison, and now she was back, acting like nothing had changed. She walked closer, smiling that fake smile, waving a paper in my face. "I'm back in charge. HOA never forgets," she said. The paper looked official, stamps and bold letters, but I didn't even read it. I looked past her at the street, the houses, the signs she thought gave her power. She didn't notice the small cameras on every pole. She didn't notice the new flags on the homes. She didn't notice how quiet everyone got. Then she whispered, loud enough for all to hear, "This time, I'll make sure you lose everything. Your house, your job, your pride." A tow truck rolled in like it was called on cue. She clapped once, proud of herself. "See, I told them." HOA authority, she said. The driver started hooking my car while my son stood on the porch, confused and scared. That's when I finally spoke, soft but clear. "You really don't learn," I said. She laughed and leaned closer. "Learn what?" "You're still the nobody who fought me last. Time." I looked at her and thought about the deeds in my safe, the contracts she never read, and the surprise waiting for her. The tow truck stopped for a second. When his radio crackled, but she snapped, "Ignore it. I approved this." My son took a step toward me and she raised her hand, like she could command him too. "Go inside, kid," she said. That's when the neighbors started coming out, slow and silent, phones already up. She didn't notice them recording. She was too busy enjoying the moment. "This is what happens when you don't obey," she said, loud and proud. Sirens came closer. She straightened her jacket, ready for her show. "Good," she smiled. "They'll finally remove you." 2 real police cars pulled up, not the ones she used before. She rushed to them, talking fast, pointing at me, pointing at my house. The officer listened, then looked at me, then looked at the street signs. His face changed. "Ma'am," he said, "who told you you had authority here?" She froze for half a second, then laughed. "I run this HOA. I always have." I pulled my phone out and made one call. No drama, no shouting, just one call. The officer noticed and asked, "Who are you calling?" I looked at Karen and said, "The property manager." She rolled her eyes. "There is no property manager above me." My phone connected. A voice came through the speaker. "This is County Land Office." Karen's smile dropped. The officer turned back to her. "Ma'am, this entire block was rezoned last year." Her mouth opened, but no sound came out. She stepped back, shaking her head. "That's not possible." "I went to prison because of him," she whispered, pointing at me. I nodded. "And while you were gone," I said quietly, "I bought everything you tried to control." The officer asked, "Everything?" I looked down the street. Every house, every road, every sign. Karen's knees almost gave out as the tow truck driver unhooked my car and slowly drove away. Karen started yelling, saying the cops were lying, saying the papers were fake, saying everyone was against her. Her voice got louder, messy, desperate. One officer asked her to calm down. She pushed his hand away and screamed, "You can't touch me! I run this place." That's when the other officer checked his tablet again and said, slow and clear, "Ma'am, you are standing on private property, and you have no permission to be here." The crowd got closer. Someone whispered her name. Someone else said, "Isn't that the HOA woman who went to jail?" Her face went pale. She turned to me, eyes burning. "You planned this," she said. I shook my head. "No," I replied. "You planned this?" "I just finished it." I tapped my phone and showed the officer the videos, her past threats, the fake notices, the same trick she was pulling again today. The officer nodded like it all made sense now. She tried one last move. She pointed at my son and shouted, "He's unsafe. This man is dangerous." That crossed the line. The officer stepped in front of my porch. "Ma'am, that's a false report," he said. Her hands started shaking. She backed up, then tried to run to her car. Too late. The sound of cuffs clicking was louder than her screaming. As they walked her past the neighbors, no one said a word. No cheers, no claps. Just phones recording and heads shaking. She looked at me one last time and said, "This isn't over." I leaned closer and said, calm and steady, "It was over the day you thought." Power was louder than truth. The officer sat her on the curb while one of them talked into his radio. She kept looking around like someone would save her. No one did. The same neighbors she once fined for trash cans and grass height now stood quiet, watching. One officer walked back to me and said, "Sir, we need to clear something up." Karen smirked again, like she still had a card left. "Yeah," she said fast. "Ask him how he stole this place." I handed the officer a thin folder. No thick files, no drama. Just clean papers. He opened it, flipped once, then again. His eyebrows went up. "These deeds are real," he said. Karen jumped up. "They're not! HOA owns this land." The officer shook his head. "No, ma'am. Joe never did." Her smile cracked. I looked at her and said, "You ruled noise rules." "I bought the ground." That's when a black SUV rolled in, slow and quiet. The doors opened, and two men stepped out. Suits, county badges. Karen's face drained. One of them looked at me and nodded. "Everything checks out," he said. "Full ownership. Streets included." Karen started crying, then yelling, then begging. "I just wanted control back," she said. "They took everything from me." One of the county men replied, "No, you abused power. That's why you lost it." They stood her up again. "New charge, trespassing, false report, harassment." She screamed my name as they walked her away. I didn't answer. I went up to my son and put my hand on his shoulder. The street felt different now, lighter, free, and for the first time, everyone knew the truth. Karen's car was still parked at the corner, blocking half the road like a bad memory that refused to move. One of the county men asked whose car it was. She shouted from between the officers, "It's mine! You can't touch it!" He looked at me instead. I said, "It's on my road." He nodded once. That was enough. A tow truck came back. Different company this time, quiet and clean. When they lifted her car, she screamed like something was being taken from her chest. She started telling everyone lies, fast and messy. She said I tricked old people. She said I bullied families to sell. She said the land wasn't mine. A neighbor stepped forward, an old man she once fined during his wife's funeral. He said, "He gave us fair deals. You gave us fear." Another neighbor spoke, then another. Karen looked around, shocked. She thought silence meant loyalty. She was wrong. One officer pulled me aside and said, low voice, "You know she's on parole, right?" I nodded. "She's not allowed near this area." The officer sighed. "That's what I thought." He walked back to her and read the terms out loud. Every word hit her harder than the cuffs. She stopped fighting. She stopped yelling. She just stared at me, broken. "You waited for me," she whispered. I shook my head. "No," I said. "You walked back into it." As they put her into the car, my phone buzzed. A message from my lawyer. One line. "Press charges and the board collapses tonight." I looked at the empty HOA sign at the entrance of the street, hanging crooked like it knew its time was over. I took a slow breath. The neighborhood was watching what I would do next. I nodded once. That was all my lawyer needed. The officer announced it clear so everyone heard. HOA authority in this area is suspended effective now. Karen snapped her head up. "You can't do that," she yelled. The county man replied, calm and cold. "Already done." He pulled down the old HOA sign right there and laid it on the ground. It felt symbolic. Like a crown hitting dirt, Karen lost it. She started blaming everyone. The neighbors. The system. Me. "You planned this while I was locked up," she cried. I finally said it, slow and steady. "While you were in prison, I was fixing what you broke." She laughed, broken and bitter. "You think this makes you powerful?" I looked around at the families, kids playing again, doors opening without fear. "No," I said. "It makes them free." Then came another twist. One officer checked his phone and frowned. "Ma'am," he said to Karen, "there's also an active warrant tied to your HOA funds." Her face went empty. She whispered, "That was cleared." The officer shook his head. "New evidence." He glanced at me. The security footage wasn't just about today. It caught everything. Where the money went. Who signed what? She sank into the seat like the fight left her body. As they drove her away, the street stayed quiet. No one celebrated. Freedom doesn't need noise. A woman walked up to me and said, "So, what happens now?" I looked at the broken sign on the ground. "Now," I said, "this place belongs to the people who live in it." The sun was starting to drop when the street finally breathed again. Kids came out first, slow at the start, then running like they were testing if it was real. Doors opened. People talked in low voices, still shocked. A neighbor asked me, "Are we safe now?" I didn't answer right away. I looked down the road where Karen's car disappeared. "Safer," I said, "because lies don't live long here anymore." Then another surprise hit. A police cruiser came back alone. The officer stepped out and walked straight to me. For a second, the street got tense again. He said, "Sir, I need to tell you something." He lowered his voice. Karen wasn't acting alone. My jaw tightened. He continued, "There are 2 more names tied to the HOA scams. They're already panicking." I looked at the houses. "The people, my son standing behind me. Will they come here?" I asked. The officer shook his head. "Not if they're smart." That night, lights stayed on longer than usual. Phones buzzed. Messages spread. HOA emails shut down. Bank accounts froze. By morning, the board was gone like it never existed. One by one, neighbors came to me, not to thank me, but to ask what comes next. I told them the same thing every time. No one controls you now. Just respect each other. That confused them more than rules ever did. Late at night, I stood on my porch alone. The same porch Karen once tried to lock me out of. My phone buzzed again. A message from an unknown number. "You made powerful enemies." I stared at it for a long second, then deleted it. I looked at the quiet street and smiled just a little. Power doesn't scare me anymore. I've seen what fake power looks like when it falls. Morning came soft and quiet. No notices on doors. No fines on windshields. Just flags moving with the wind and families stepping outside without fear. So families could live without someone knocking, yelling, threatening. That night, the streetlights turned on one by one. I stood there alone for a moment and whispered to myself, "This is why freedom matters. Not for control, not for ego, but for the quiet moments no one can take away. And if anyone ever forgets that again, they'll learn the same way she did." She came back thinking fear would work again. She left knowing power without truth always loses. The neighborhood stayed quiet after that, not because people were scared, but because they were finally free. And every time I walk that road, I remember one simple thing. Never judge someone by how calm they stay when you try to take what's theirs.